What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking to you about being a first time home buyer, what the process looks like, what you should look out for, and I really hope that this is helpful for you. These things are super important if you're thinking about buying a home so that you have the smoothest possible experience and that you are educated, well informed, and able to make the best decisions for yourself and your future. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first of all, you're gonna want to get pre approved with a mortgage loan officer. Now, you might be thinking, Elizabeth, why do I need to get pre approved if I haven't even looked at homes yet? Shouldn't I like kind of get a feel of what I want and, see what's out there? No, you should get pre-approved first, and this is why. So getting pre-approved tells you what your purchasing power is, so you actually know what you can afford, right? And if you don't have a pre-approval letter, you can't put an offer in on a home. So even if you go and see a home, if you like it, you can't put an offer in until you get that pre-approval because it won't get accepted unless it has a pre-approval, right? Because who's gonna let you waste their time if you can't afford a home, if you can't prove you can afford the home, right? So because of that, a pre-approval is super important. And like I said, it helps you know like what your purchasing power even is because it will look into your finances and see things that you might have forgotten about. Like when you get approved, you they'll dig into your past and see if you have any student loans or anything like that that's pending because that's going to change what you're going to be able to get approved for. So it's really important to connect with a mortgage loan officer so they can help you out in figuring out what your purchasing power is. Because it would be so sad to look at a home and really, really like it and then find out you can't afford it, right? So you'd rather just look in the price range that you can afford and that is going to be comfortable for you and your finances. Okay, so second of all, you're going to want to find a realtor. Now, again, why do I need a realtor? You might be thinking. Why do I want somebody looking over my shoulder while I am trying to just figure out whether or not I like a house or not? I can look around houses all on my own. Why do I need a realtor? Well, it's not that you necessarily need a realtor, okay? You don't need one legally. There's a lot of things you don't need, right? But it's nice to have one and it makes the process easier for you. And as a buyer, why would you not get a realtor? Because generally, it's expected that the seller will pay the buyer's agent and the selling agent. I mean, the the list agent and the selling agent. Okay, so why would you not use that service? Have another professional to have things taken care of, right? They will schedule showings for you. They will search for homes for you, and they will talk to the list agent. They will negotiate for you. There'll be another set of eyes to make sure that things go smoothly, to make sure that there's nothing missed, right? The more people that are having eyes on the deal, the less likely that something is going to go unnoticed that needs to be noticed. So that's why it is a good idea to get a realtor rather than not. Now, I'm gonna say this while disclosing the fact that I am a realtor, because I don't want you to find out later and be like, "Oh, she's saying all these things and she didn't even tell me she was a realtor. That's the only reason why she said those things." But yeah, I am a realtor with Space Team LPT Realty, so I will tell you that. But I do really think that having a realtor makes the process easier for you if you are not in real estate and have not bought a home before, especially. It will be very helpful if you have a realtor to help you out. Having a realtor will also help protect you and your best interests. They'll also help you with the guidelines and for example, there's a lot of deadlines when it comes to the paperwork that has to be turned in. So they'll help you out with that. And they'll know more about the ins and outs of contracts. So they'll be able to make sure that you're not getting blindsided, right? So that's another good thing about having a realtor. Okay, so before you start looking, you're going to want to have these things. You're going to want to have a must have and a nice to have list. And this means a list of things that you need in a home and a list of things that it would be nice to have, but you don't necessarily need. For example, if you have 3 kids and you really want each of them to have their own bedrooms, it might be a must have for you to have a 4 bedroom home. So that's a must have, right? Now, having a screened in patio, that might just be a nice to have. You can screen in a patio yourself. You don't necessarily need one, it's not that hard to screen in a patio. That might not be something you need, but maybe something that's just nice to have. So having a list of those things is super important because when you walk into a home, you really need to know your priorities. How important is it the size of the backyard? Okay? How important is it that it has a gas stove? How important is it that the dining and living area and kitchen are all open and connected? How important is it how many windows there are in the living area? Okay, so all these things, like, what does it really mean to you? Okay, because it's good to know, because when it comes down to it, if there's a home that is a lot better priced, but it has a lot of those nice to haves, you might be thinking, oh, like, I really want that home. But then you look at another home that's like 25K less, and it has all of your must haves and just less of those nice to haves. You got to evaluate what really matters, because some of those nice to haves might be things that you can add on yourself for less than that 25K, right? So definitely something to note before you go looking for homes. It's super important. Okay, also understanding your budget. Everybody has a different lifestyle, so it's good to note your budget for things other than even just your mortgage, because there's taxes, there's oftentimes HOA fees, there's maintenance costs. So those are all things to think about when you are trying to determine where you want to move to. Before you start looking, it's good to know what kind of community you are looking for. Is it important for you that it's gated? Is it important for you that it's very family friendly? You also have to think about the commute to the places that you care about, that you go to on a regular basis, your work, if you go to college, maybe your college, or if you have kids that go to school, what are the schools in the area? Because even if you're in a nice neighborhood, maybe it doesn't have the best schools, and that's a important thing for you. Or the grocery store and shopping, dining, all these things, you need to determine how important it is to you that you are close to them and how close you want to be to them. A lot of people, when they're buying a home, they think about now, but you also need to think about the future. What is the resale value potential of the home? Especially if you are only planning on being in this home for like 1 to 3 years, definitely you need to think about the resale value potential. Is it an area that is developing quickly? Because then in that period of time, you might be more likely to gain equity. If it's not, you really need to think about that, because, like, I'm going to show you some charts of the median price value of homes in the Wesley Chapel area and homes in the Tampa area. And as you can see, over a period of 10 years, the value does increase a lot. But during those 10 years, it's going up and down all the time. And so if you sell within a year, you may have a potential of losing or only breaking even. Whereas if you sell within in 5 years, you are more likely to gain something. Now, I can't guarantee that you're going to gain something, but you're a lot more likely based on the statistics. The longer that you stay in a home, the more you're going to gain on it, right? Okay, other things to look out for in home, of course, are like the layout, because that's something that you can't necessarily fix, at least not easily. There might be some slight changes that you can make to it, but for the most part, however a layout is, that's about how it's going to be, right? So that is a very important thing to look at. The conditions of things like the roof, the AC, the plumbing, electrical are all super important, and those things will be dealt with in the inspection time, which we'll talk about later. How much natural light is there? How much storage space is there? And the location, the neighborhood, the future growth potential of the area, all those things are important to look out for in a home. So let's talk about some other costs of buying a home besides just the purchase price. So also there will be closing costs, which is typically between 2 and 5% of the purchase price. The inspection is typically going to be around $300 to $600, and it's really important to have somebody that you trust or that your realtor trusts to do this, because this can really make a difference on how the deal goes. You don't want to last minute find out that something is really wrong with the home, or buy the house and there's like a leak or something like that that you didn't know about, and it causes issues, or the AC is actually about to die or whatever. Like, you really want to know those things ahead of time. So having a good inspector is super important. The appraisal fees typically around $300 to $500. What an appraisal is that it's going to determine the actual value of the home. So this is important because the mortgage lender cannot give you a mortgage amount that is more than the value of the home. So that's why the appraisal is important. And the reason that they can't do that is because that means that their collateral is worth less than what that means your collateral is worth less than what they are lending you. So they're lending you more than what your collateral is worth, which is a safety risk for them, right? So they can't do that. So that's why the appraisal is important. Moving expenses is another cost to think about, especially if you're moving from out of state. There's going to be ongoing costs of utilities, maintenance, and HOA fee depending on where you are, of course. Okie dokie. So once you find something that you like, you're going to put in an offer, or your realtor is going to put in an offer, and you're going to negotiate terms. Okay, so some ways to put yourself apart from other offers are things like having a lower inspection period, having a closing date that is flexible and dependent on when the seller wants to close. Things like that will set you apart and help your offer seem more attractive to the seller. And depending on what kind of market you're in, you might be able to get more out of the seller actually if you ask for maybe the closing costs to be partly covered or all the way covered, depending if there's something wrong with the home, like a repair need or something like that. You can ask them to repair it or to compensate you for it somehow. So there's different ways to negotiate, and depending on your situation. The reason that I said that having a shorter inspection period is good is because what the inspection period is, it's a time for you to be able to schedule an inspection, but it's also a time that you can legally walk out of the deal without any penalty. So the shorter the inspection period is, the better it is for the seller, because that's less time that they're worried about you walking away from the deal and them having wasted their time with you, right? So if you have a shorter inspection period, that is better for them. It is really important during this offer and negotiation time that you are staying on top of deadlines, because missing one deadline could lose you the deal. Because if you miss a deadline, they legally can walk away from the deal, go on to somebody else who has a better offer, and you can even lose on your earnest money. If you had put your earnest money in and you didn't follow the things you were supposed to, they can keep the earnest money and then like walk away and then get a better deal. So you do not want to let that happen. And if you have a good realtor, they should be staying on top of the deadlines and making sure that you are following the correct schedule. Okie dokie. So let's talk about red flags with a home. So maybe I should have talked about this when I was talking about looking at homes, because some of these things you can see on your own even without an inspection sometimes. So when you're walking into a home, look for these things: signs of water damage or mold, which could look like some yellowing on the ceiling, or even like on the baseboards and things like that. If you can see how old the roof is, that's a good thing to look at up front, because roofs are obviously expensive. You need a new one typically every 20 years. You're supposed to get a new one. So if it's at like 19 years, that's a concern. When you're going into a home and you're driving through the neighborhood, well, really, you should drive all around the neighborhood if you can when you're looking at homes, so you can really get a good feel for it. See, is it a noisy neighborhood? Is it a family-friendly neighborhood? Is it well kept? All those things are good to note. And also in certain areas, when you drive through a neighborhood, you might see some houses look like they had flooding damage while others don't. So that could be concerning if only a few houses down you see that someone looks like they have a lot of flood damage. Even from the outside of the home, sometimes you can see that might be a concern because if your house is only a few houses away, it could have been you. It's good to look for settling issues. So, especially like in older homes, you might notice doors sticking or a bowing in the wall and things like that. Those could be signs of foundation cracks, uneven floors, things like that. That could be really actually a big issue with the foundation. So, those are good things to look out for, especially when you're looking at older homes. Other things to look for is like water pooling near the foundation. That's not a good sign. Gaps around exterior doors and windows, not a good sign. So, yeah, those are some red flags to look out for. Okay, we're at the end and it's time for the final walkthrough. So, for the final walkthrough, that's usually going to be the day before or the day of closing so that it's as close to closing as possible so that you can make sure that the home is in the condition that it's expected to be in, right? And everything that was said to be there in the contract is there. This is especially important if you said that you were going to be getting some appliances, or they said you were going to be getting some appliances or things like that, because sometimes they will take them even if it's in the contract. Or it could be an accident. Like sometimes the moving company might take something that they weren't supposed to and they didn't realize, like the washer and dryer or something like that. So it's good to really be thorough with the final walkthrough. You want to make sure everything is just as you expected it to be. There's nothing wrong with the home. They didn't leave a hole in the wall at the last minute or something crazy. So yeah, the final walkthrough is typically as close to the closing as you can get it, like the night before or the morning of. Okay, so now we're at the fun part, which is the actual closing. Now, it doesn't feel so fun sometimes because there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff to sign. But when you get done with all that paperwork, you get to take your keys home to your new home and celebrate and enjoy that beautiful home that you decided to get. So, oh, and also, generally, if you have a good realtor, they'll a lot of times get you a closing gift. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. After that, you can enjoy living in your new home. So that's the home buying process, guys. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this was an educational video for you guys, especially if you are about to go on that first home buyer journey. I hope that this makes you feel a lot more prepared, a lot more at ease, and just ready for what's ahead. I really hope that you find a home that you love and a place that you love and with the people that you love. This is Joy in Wesley Chapel, and my name is Elizabeth Joy. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind liking it and considering subscribing to my channel where I talk about Tampa, Wesley Chapel, fun things to do in the area, as well as real estate. So if those things interest you, consider subscribing and checking out my other videos. You guys have a great weekend. Bye.